Hi friends and new friends. Today we're talking about the Dash Evolution Open House. So why are we talking about the Dash Evolution Open House so late? If you're a community member, you might be wondering, well, hey, that was like a month ago. Why are you talking about it now? Well, Dash has been in the news a lot more lately because of its technological advancements and its movements in the markets. So for people that are new to Dash, they might be wondering, well, why is Dash doing so well in the markets? What's the big deal about Dash? What's the attraction? And we all know because we saw the open house, but we kind of got distracted because of Ryan's talk about Taylornomics and the proof of work versus proof of stake. We kind of lost track of the other stuff that went on in the open house. So with this video, I'm going to go over it. I'm Christopher Carruthers, also known as Tao of Satoshi, and you're watching Cash Alternative TV. So what is Cash Alternative TV other than a nice catchy jingle? Well, it's a show about digital currency with a focus on Dash, which aims to be a digital payment system for the world. So it aims to be an alternative to cash, hence the name Cash Alternative TV. Hope you enjoy this channel. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell if you're into that kind of stuff. Well, that brings me to the topic of today's episode, which is the Dash Evolution Open House. This development stage of Dash has been something that the community's been very patient with, and we're working towards the end of it, so that's good. You know, we're seeing the results of Dash Evolution, which is the Dash platform, and all the exciting apps that can be built on it. So it definitely deserved its own CATV show. So the Dash Evolution Open House before Ryan Taylor's speech was designed to be like a showcase of Dash Evolution features. I wanted to show the roadmap of how we're going to release it, and also wanted to show how we're going to attract developers, which is definitely a key thing when you want to develop an ecosystem. You need developers to develop it. Andy Freer recently commented that up until now, Dash's tech has been kind of inward-looking, like with features that might be pleasing to the community, but really don't have any use for outsiders. They just really want to see what's going on outside the box. They don't really care what's going on underneath. And now Dash is coming up with stuff that's going to be pleasing to outside users, which is the Dash apps that are going to be running on the Dash platform. That's what the user is going to see at the end. So it's exciting now that we're going from the interior, what's going on behind the scenes, to something tangible that the user will actually be able to look at and enjoy. So watch this channel soon for an interview with Andy Freer where he goes through his ideas and his vision for Dash in the short term and the long term. So without further ado, let's get into the highlights of the open house. When you take a look at this, you'll realize why the Dash community is excited and why it's attracting attention in the markets. First of all, we met Liz Roebuck. She's a product manager at Dash. And excuse the mono audio here, but that was a problem with the Dash open house. It's not a problem on my end. The audio is mono, but it's still pretty clear. So we get to meet Liz Roebuck here.
My name is Liz Roebuck. I'm a senior product manager here at Dash Core Group. I joined just under 2 years ago, and I oversee the product team. Prior to that, I did some management consulting, and then I worked at Disney in product management, and then met these folks at a conference and never looked back.
Nice to meet you, Liz. Liz gives us a glimpse at the process that Dash Core Group uses to see the product through from start to finish.
We start by identifying opportunities by looking at user pain points and desired user benefits. We form hypotheses along with our team members in our engineering teams and our design teams about how to address those needs. Sometimes we test them using user surveys and prototypes. If the sort of desired approach isn't kind of very obvious, we'll plan for delivery by defining the scope, and in order to do that, we basically scope out epics, which are big buckets of functionality, user stories, which are smaller pieces of functionality, and acceptance criteria, which kind of detail out the specifics of a particular story. We help guide delivery by ensuring that the scope is well understood from a user standpoint and optimized by essentially rinsing and repeating this whole cycle.
Have you met Fred? Liz gives us an introduction here.
And then the fourth principle is around this guy, this is Fred. And Fred is a hierarchy of user needs triangle. And basically what that is, there's a lot of these out there. This is my favorite one, so I took him and I adapted him to Dash and then gave him a face. And basically what it does is it breaks down software user needs into kind of the main categories, similar to like the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so at the base layer you have kind of your functional things. So for us, the software works as intended, right? Next is reliable. For us, secure and performant. Next, easy to use. Fast, affordable, intuitive. And finally, is it delightful? Fun to use, right? And so basically the goal here is that for every single feature or product that you launch, you aim to have kind of a slice of the triangle here, right? Because you don't want to build all of the stuff that's functional, that's 100% functional first, without, if it's 0% reliable, easy to use, and delightful, nobody's going to use it. And so for every item that we add to our pipeline, we define it as falling into one or more of these categories. And we monitor that balance and optimize it based on kind of our current strategy, based on the market need at the moment. So right now, our pipeline is much more focused on the easy-to-use stuff because that's really critical to our core strategies at the moment.
Good stuff. In this next clip, we meet Dash Core Group CTO Bob Carroll, who underlines the benefits and challenges there is when organizing a global concern of developers.
So by way of introduction, my name is Bob Carroll, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Dash Core Group, and excited to chat with you a little bit, just briefly here before Ryan's discussion about our development organization. And the development organization is really kind of made up of a few teams, and I'll talk about that, and spread worldwide. And so, this offers positive benefits for us as well as challenges. The pros are we have the access to the top talent globally. And with that, there's economic benefits. We can pick labor in various regions to take advantage of that. But there's challenges that come along with that as well. Time zone challenges. And so it really puts us into this always available type of mode for it. And it's great. We have a pretty small team of developers and QA and product managers and that bring this together. But yet it's still a pretty tiny team that's doing all this great work.
Bob continues here by explaining the unique Dash Core Group structure. He's never been a part of anything like it, and he finds it very exciting.
And it's a great team. And in the spirit of decentralization, we really adhere to some of those values internally in our organization as well. It makes us unique, and we have unique challenges that go along with that. So for instance, we have teams that are product teams. So we're talking to guys today from the platform team, and Brian was representing the mobile team today. You're probably very familiar with the core team because they've been around the longest. But then we have these other organizations that overlay that as well, the QA organization and the product organization and operations infrastructure, the way we work in development with agile methodologies, so our Scrum teams. And what this really does is provides a level of decentralization that's not typical in a typical software development shop. It's usually fairly hierarchical. You have team leads, you have managers, directors, vice presidents, CTOs. So in a typical organization, I'd actually have a lot of say and input. At Dash Core Group, all the guys just run around and do everything without telling me. It's really exciting. It's a great job to have. It's fantastic because what we've done is we've delegated decision making. And just as consensus is developed on the blockchain, consensus is developed similarly in the organization. And so you can think of all the advantages to that. We've got diversity of workforce, distributed workforce, everybody having a voice and input into that. Some of the challenges could be then, though, that might take longer to decide, as opposed to just saying, hey, Ryan, what's the right way? Or Bob, what's the right way to do this? Or what do you prefer? And so those are some of the challenges that we face as we develop this software, but we believe in it, and it's core to who Dash Core Group is as well.
In this next clip, you're going to meet another Dash Core Group member. His name is Dana Alibrandy, and he's a product manager for Dash, and he handles the Dash platform. He goes through all the different aspects of Dash platform here, which is mostly stuff that was covered at the Dash Convention Europe. But I highlighted this clip here because I thought it was interesting. He was talking about how Dash is compatible with smart contracts. So that's kind of exciting in itself.
Fortunately, this is one of the really interesting use cases of the platform, is that it can act as an oracle for smart contracts on any sort of platform. So Dash platform plays nicely with something like Ethereum or Zilliqa or any of these other smart contract platforms. and you can use long-living masternode quorums to vote on the content of data that is being used to execute smart contracts, and you can also create a record of that data as well, as opposed to just trusting whatever data is feeding into that smart contract.
And this next segment, if you're a Dash community member, you're very excited about, because now we have a solid roadmap for the release of Dash Evolution, which is Dash Platform now. But if you're not part of the community, this might be the first time that you're seeing this. This is going to be the release of Dash Platform and the different phases that it's going to be going through. So here we go.
We've outlined the phases for the EvoNet release into 4 different phases. This first one, access to basic components, is what we'll be releasing at the end of the year. And that includes access to the platform chain, access to the SDK, the name service, identities, all of these features that I just talked about. And moving on, phase 2, we're calling securing the platform. And that is going to provide some use cases around like light client support for mobile phones, proofs in your responses, and we've also got a couple of other things, potentially DAPI SPV, so providing SPV functionality through DAPI. Phase 3 is incentivizing the platform, so we include the credit system. We're going to include a couple of other things like proof of service additions, so that masternodes will be able to understand how rewards are accumulated and then distributed. And then lastly, we have some preparations that we want to do for mainnet. So optimizing certain libraries and how we're going to approach username distribution, things like that, some of which that we still need to hammer out.
Yeah, I'm so looking forward to that. It's going to be so exciting seeing that something that we've been waiting for a long time. If you're a community member, you know how long we've been waiting for it. If you're not a community member, welcome to the team, because we'd love to have everybody here testing out Dash Platform and getting it ready for prime time. Just get excited, because this is something that's going to be really cool. It's almost like a decentralized app store. In this next clip, we meet another Dash Core Group member. His name is Brian Foster. He's a Dash Pay Wallet product manager, and he goes through all the challenges that cryptocurrency faces on a day-to-day basis.
So I'm Brian, as introduced before. I'm going to go through, I'm the product manager for the wallets, so both the wallets that are in the app stores today as well as the Dash Pay wallets that we're going to be talking about now. Dana already gotten through some of the problems, but they are pretty well known, maybe a couple new ones, but it's just not really that easy for the average person to start using cryptocurrency, especially getting started. That's probably, I'd say, one of the biggest challenges. But even when you get going, there's still a lot of confusing technology, maybe even misleading, that scares people away. We know about ugly addresses. It's all super impersonal, right? There's also a lot of what I call rigid security models. So there's a lot of wallets that come out that they require and make you do certain things, or there's others that are very lax and don't really do enough, which maybe leads to concern. So that's a problem that we're trying to solve.
He then outlines how Dash Pay wallets work to combat these issues.
The value propositions, so what we're trying to do to solve these is the onboarding experience. We're hoping to tackle that getting started problem. The terminology, the flows, how things look in the screens. We want it to be super, super intuitive. And we want to leverage all that identity and profile information from the platform to make it more social and enjoyable. And then there's a security option. So when you need to enter your PIN, when you need to verify backups and things like that, we want to make it more flexible for all different kinds of users.
Okay, so the part that I found really interesting is how Dash intends to onboard users. Onboarding is so important because we can have all this unique technology, we can have all this platform, but if we don't have users to use it, then what's the point? If we don't have people excited about this, then what's the point? So he goes over how we're going to onboard users, and there's quite a few interesting tactics that they're thinking about using. Here we go.
So onboarding. A ton of challenges with this, but the biggest challenge, especially when we're trying to get brand new users, people who don't have any Dash at all, is that there are some network fees associated to creating, and getting set up on the network with a username. So we have to find a way to deal with that. We've talked about faucets, which is basically a way to automatically fund specific actions or events on the network. But with that, you have a lot of people who want to scam the system, bad actors, so we've put that to the side. Bulk sponsorships. I see that definitely coming down the road. businesses that want to send a whole bunch of invitations to loyalty, users or other customers that they want to have use Dash at their location. We're going to start out with one-off invitations from the wallet. If you already have Dash, then you can just pay for it yourself. And we're not talking about heaps of money here. We don't have a final cost of the invitations, but they are expected to be under $1. That's almost a given for this at this point right now. But it's the costs associated with creating and registering these identities, usernames, the profile, and contacts. As part of that invitation process, we're going to do what's called like an automatic top-up, so that we're not only accounting for and supporting the creation of the username and getting them set up, but also dealing with any other kind of contacts that they want to set up, profile changes, name changes, things like that. It should last the average user at least 1 to 3 years, and that's pretty conservative. Unless you're making more than 80 contacts and doing activity like that, then it should be a pretty good period of time. So new users will get invitations. They'll get topped up, and all that's kind of transparent to them. They have no idea what's going on behind the scenes. They got an invitation, and they can use the wallet. It's completely transparent to them that there are any fees associated to what they're doing in the wallet. And anyone can send invites. Anyone can receive an invite. It's not closed down in any way. And then existing users will just create their own. I don't have any fancy pictures from the history, unfortunately, but this shows just hopefully how easy it will be. It starts in the wallet. Bob, in this case, would create a transaction. It's a special transaction they're creating on the platform. And then that would get sent to Jane via email, text, or some other kind of private message. And I emphasize private. It is something that you wouldn't be broadcasting or sending on public social media, but it does cover, like I said, the costs of the invite. Jane would click on a link. It would bring her to the wallet, and she'd automatically end up creating a contact after she's registered the username. So immediately after getting an invite, you've already got a contact. You're kind of ready to roll.
Great. I look forward to seeing those strategies in action. Next, Brian shows us the meat and potatoes of the open house, which is the DashPay wallets. We get a glimpse of the mobile wallet, which looks beautiful, and also of the desktop version that's coming soon. When you look at these, you can just see how Dash is going to look like just like a decentralized PayPal or Venmo, and it's just so exciting to see.
Completely redesigned wallet. So a couple things that it does. We've got some shortcuts up at the top. Our balance is a little bit more prominent now because our security has improved in the sense where we can kind of lock our whole wallet. We can hide and display the balance. We've organized the menu a little bit more, so it's a little bit more intuitive. And again, the security options as far as when you need to enter your PIN, if you leave the app, all of that. We've also, it's not shown, but the passphrase verification process also was improved quite a bit too. On the evolution, when evolution features roll out, you'll notice it's pretty similar in style. It just adds that extra social element of pictures. And again, the different views when you're going through the menu, changing your own settings, contact requests getting dealt with, and making payments. You'll notice paying and requesting as opposed to other types of functionality that you can do today. A couple future kind of concepts, both on the mobile side. Again, trying to play more with the pictures and the social pieces of it. Different views, kind of a completely different view that we've been looking at doing. Also, colors are a little bit more prominent in this kind of concept. And then kind of an idea of how it ties into the desktop. So having a nice set of uniform views on the mobile side and the desktop.
There was quite a lengthy clip of two Dash developers from Russia, Ivan Shumkov and Anton Supranchuk. They were talking about the Dash platform and all the things that were going on behind the scenes, like the nitty-gritty technical details. But there was a problem with the feed. It was plagued by technical glitches. So they were going to re-record, and once they do re-record, I'll do an episode on that when it comes out. So lastly, Jeremy, who's also known as the Fez, he talked about the developer portal, how we're going to attract developers to Dash, and what they're going to see when they look at this portal. Because it's important that they know how to deal with Dash platform and the processes that are reused. So this is a portal that's specifically for developers. And that's interesting because we're going to need that for sure. We're going to onboard the developers first, then we can onboard the users. So let's hear Jeremy talk about the developer portal.
So there's really three pieces that we're sort of bringing together here as we start working on the portal. So we have some existing content that we're migrating over onto a new site. And also we have the new content, which of course is probably the obvious thing for this new portal. And then also we're working on doing a little refresh of the dash.org developer page to kind of pull all of this together. So I'm going to jump into first one here. This is the refresh or update of some existing content. This is the Dash core documentation that has previously lived at dashdocs.github.io. And so that page has been around for a few years now, and we've kept the content up to date, but the look and feel of it really has not aged well, I guess. And there's also some features that are in need of improvement, I'll say. And that's from feedback we've heard in the community and even within Dash core. And so that's the first part here. We're pulling that into this new site. You can see down here on the bottom, the left side being our existing stuff, the right side is the new page. And really this also is allowing us to combine both the layer 2 stuff and the layer 1 stuff, so Dash platform as well as Dash core on the same documentation platform. So we're pretty excited about this. This migration actually has already been completed. We haven't announced it really because it's targeting Dash Core 15, which is heading to testnet soon, but not quite there. But the site's ready to go, and actually there's a URL at the end, so you guys can take a look at it later if you're interested. Next up, the second piece here is the new content we're building for all the platform stuff. And so we've had to evaluate a lot of internal documents and think about what the needs are of the people we're trying to get into the platform, the developers, and what really the content is that they need to see to allow them to effectively develop. So what we've ended up with here is kind of a typical layout of content where we've broken into 3 sections that you see here. Explanations are the higher level content, and this is just sort of overviews of concepts. So in this example, state transitions that Ivan and Anton were talking about earlier, this just kind of walks you through that, and it's more of a learning type of content. The second type is tutorials. These would be like how-to guides, that sort of idea where it takes you through a sequence of steps to accomplish a particular task. So it's more doing than learning, but you're learning as you do a bit. The third type of content is the really detailed stuff, what we call the references section, and this primarily consists of the DAPI endpoints. You can see a list there and all the parameters that go along with them. And this level of documentation is one that probably a lot of developers won't need to get to. As Ivan and Anton mentioned with the SDKs, a lot of this will be abstracted away, and so you'll be using an SDK. But for those of you who are interested in maybe porting the SDK or building an SDK for platform on another platform, this would be the info you would need to know how to interact with DAPI and accomplish that. And then the final piece of the puzzle here is the dash.org developer page. It's currently undergoing a redesign right now to kind of be the entry point to get to all of this content. So new developers coming in, maybe ones that aren't familiar with Dash at all, will likely end up at dash.org, end up on this page, and the content's being adjusted to really make sure what needs to be there is there, remove some existing stuff that isn't necessarily necessary, and just make sure everyone can get to the appropriate level of detail, whether that's the overview to learn about stuff or the low-level RPC calls or whatever they need. So this screenshot at the bottom here is just sort of notional. It's not completed yet. This is just to give you a little teaser of something to look at. So those three pieces fit together to make up the content of what we're putting on the portal. I'm going to quickly jump through a few features that you can expect to see on the site. These are pretty obvious for a developer page, the first being embedded code snippets. So as you're going through a how-to or looking at reference documents, it's always nice to have these fields of content where you can copy, paste, reuse. It, of course, supports syntax highlighting in multiple languages, as you can see in this image up here. Next up, this is kind of a view of the header of the page, and I'm going to highlight a few items here quickly. On the top left of the page, there is a drop-down to select the version of documentation you're looking at. So as the API evolves over time, you can still refer back. Maybe you developed on version X, we're now on version Y, and you can jump back and forth and see the differences. Next up is the search feature, which you would expect to be here. I'm mainly highlighting it because it's an improvement over what is on the current Dash documentation. This is more of a full text search where the current site is fairly limited in its search capabilities. And then the final piece is really helpful for allowing you as developers or people reading documentation, if you see errors on it, typos or incorrect examples, you can use this suggest edits option. It'll drop you into basically an edit mode of the page, and you can make your change, submit that as a suggestion, and then it can be reviewed and integrated back in just to make sure we keep things up to date and as usable as possible.
Well, yeah, so like I said, exciting times. You can see how Dash is doing so well in the markets because people are starting to get excited. They're starting to realize that, hey, evolution's not vaporware. There's actually something behind this, and it's going to be pretty cool. So yeah, if you're watching this, if you're new to Dash, get excited because this is what's going on in our community. This is why we're excited. And onboarding users is going to be paramount coming up because getting developers, first of all, if you know any developers out there, hit them up, say, listen, Dash platform's ready. Then you can come and see the developer portal, get started on Adapt. That's what we want. And you know, it's really fuel for growing the capacity of the network. You know, like we have a strong base of users, but we can always reach out and get more developers. You know, people that are working on Ethereum, maybe you can tell them and say, hey, there's another product that you can be working on. There's another exciting platform out there that's interesting that you might want to take a look at. And the more variety of dApps, the better too. You know how Ethereum had the CryptoKitties back then? You know, like we could also have CryptoKitties in Dash, but I don't know if we really want that. There's all kinds of use cases for Dash platform, and it's really going to be really exciting to see what kind of development comes out of it. These truly are exciting times for Dash, and the Dash community's patience is finally going to be rewarded. Well, that's it for me today. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and click the bell if you want to see more from me and Cash Alternative TV episodes. Until next time, remember, Dash is a better money for a better future. And that future is getting closer every day. Bye for now.